So I'm convinced that they're going to have to change the title of the show from The Single Life to The Delusional Life, because what are these people doing? Let's talk about it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. You guys, The Single Life this week gave us a lot to talk about, so let's just get right into it. Let's talk about John. Uncle John is finally going to visit his lady friends, girlfriend, they are Facebook official, Megan, in Texas. Arrives a little late, we go straight to the hotel, we see him the next morning, and the room is a bit of a mess because he can't find his toiletry bag. He forgot to pack it. And you would think that since he's been living in a suitcase for the past 6 months, that he would just have everything in the same place. But no, he forgot a deodorant, he forgot toothbrush, toothpaste. The thing he has are clothing and toys for extracurricular activities, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm like, sir, you have it all backwards, because there's just no way that she's going to want to get between the sheets with you when you have strong BO. So use your resources. You're at a hotel, call up front desk and get what you need. But no, he goes straight downstairs with his funk from the night before and sees Megan. I like Uncle John, but hygiene is literally like the lowest of the lowest bar of expectations. Like, it's standard. Like, you can't, I just can't believe that he didn't brush his teeth before he went to hug this girl. But Megan arrives, she looks gorgeous, and she runs into his arms, embracing for a while, and she's like, I love you. And then there's a pause, and he's like, I miss you. And she's like, so you're not ready to say it yet? And he's like, no. And his face is red, and this whole time they're still hugging. And the secondhand embarrassment that I felt for both of them. But after a while, she just says, I missed you. And she meets him where he is, you know. I would love to know what you guys thought about that interaction. I mean, it was a little funny, but I could see how in his brain he's like, this is only the second time that we're seeing each other. Like, it's way too soon. But then I could also see in her brain it being like, well, we've been deeply talking for 6 months. Like, why aren't you ready? And so then they're doing those, production interviews. And so they're doing these production interviews, and Megan is talking, and he kind of interrupts her and is like, oh, yeah, we need to go get me some deodorant and toothbrush because I don't have it. And she's like, really? And then he's like, yeah, I smell like a man right now. And my girl, Megan here, is fully in heat and has love goggles. And she says like, oh, well, I love the way you smell. And she like sniffs him. And it's supposed to be like cute and flirty. She's obviously trying to, build that closeness. They have been long distance. But John takes this and runs with it. And he's like, oh, great. Well, then if she likes it, then I'm fine. And I was hoping that he was joking. That they would end the interviews, get what they need, and then go back to the room. They end up going straight to the room. We see them making out all the way up from the elevator. I totally get the pheromone thing, but I feel like that expires. I feel like 48 hours without a shower may be an issue. And they're obviously trying to work up a sweat, if you know what I mean. So anyway, and so they get to the room, and like, he wastes no time in pulling out his gadgets and goes into a whole talk about it, which this is not the channel for that. But I mean, the things that Uncle John was saying weren't wrong. It's hard for me to listen to him when I know that he hasn't showered. But anyway, we see them the next morning. Magic is clearly still happening physically, but that doesn't build a relationship. And they're both determined to date this time. Because if you guys remember, the last time that he visited her, they barely left the bed. So this is improvement. They're out going on a walk, and then we see them at a restaurant. And John is blabbing away, trying to break the ice, making really weird jokes, but Megan is tuned in. You could tell that, like, as a mom, she has certain things just in the back of her head. And she asks him, she's like, I know that we were very loosey goosey about it when we first got together, but how do you feel about marriage? And then, you guys, she slips in as he's talking, like, yeah, I was just wondering when there'll be a proposal. And John is like, whoa, 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 whoa. He's like, wait a minute. Like, I'm a big believer that, like, before you even get into marriage, you live together first. Because, he has been engaged before, and he says that he got engaged really fast and he's not trying to do that. So then Megan is catching him in his bluff. She's like, well, I would expect that 6 months in we'd be living together because, he just said that you want to live together first. And he's like, yeah, like 6 months from now. And she goes, no, no, no. 6 months from when you started dating, which is where they currently are. They're clearly not on the same page. There's a lot of potential here. I just think that the stakes are higher for Megan because she has a daughter. And I think that John does want to be this family man, but he, it's a first for him. So I think that there's a lot of hesitation and fear and anxiety around that. But I think there's a lot of potential here. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with them this season. But that was about it for them. Let's move on to Veronica, and there's a lot here. We see our girl Veronica on her way to the airport. She's giddy as heck, about to pick up Jamal, and she tells us that his communication has gotten better in this last gap between the last time that she saw him. So clearly her notes have been applied. She finds him at the airport. They have this really cute, nice long hug, and they're in the car talking about just how hard this last break was for them and how they missed each other a lot more or a lot sooner. That usually happens when your feelings grow deeper and you feel that you're more invested in a relationship. And Veronica's like, yeah, in this trip, you're going to fall in love with Charlotte because she is determined to get him to move there, to end this long distance situation. She just really wants to scope out if he believes that there's a real future for them as a family. Jamal, on the other hand, is not very happy about the pressure that Veronica is placing. He doesn't think that they've been dating that long for him to relocate for her. And I think that this has a lot to do also with their age gap. I think that people that are older move on a faster timeline because they have lived experiences and they just know exactly what they want. And I think that when you're younger, you're like, I have time. Like, I have time to figure it out. So they really are going to have to work hard to fill in that gap. But Jamal does agree that they work so much better when they're in the same place. Jamal lives in San Diego currently, but he does have friends on the East Coast, and they're going to go ahead and come visit him in Charlotte. And so since they're going to be hanging out for one of the nights, Veronica wants to invite her own friends, which includes Tim. Jamal is not the biggest fan of Tim, and vice versa. To Veronica, Tim is her bestie. But to Jamal, Tim is Veronica's ex. And that gets a little sticky. And so there's a scene where we see Veronica and Jamal interacting with her daughter, and it only highlights more the age gap between Veronica and Jamal. I feel like a lot of pop culture insiders are more relevant between her daughter and Jamal's age group. And there's a moment where Veronica, a joke goes completely over her head, and I was just like, yeah, this is going to be a reoccurring thing when you're with a younger person. But the next scene is with Jamal's friends on this little pedal pub thing. It looks really cool, but personally not coordinated enough to drink and to pedal. So kudos to them. They're exchanging pleasantries, and then after a while, Veronica's like, yeah, I'm so excited to show you guys around Charlotte. My friends are going to join us later. And Jamal's like, yeah, a special friend is joining us. It's my friend Tim, who happens to be my ex and my co-parent. And Jamal's friends are like, your ex? And you could already tell this is gonna go so left when Tim arrives, because Jamal's friends have such a visceral reaction to the fact that Veronica is friends with her ex, and the way that the friend looks at Jamal like you're letting this happen, it told me everything I needed to know. Also, these guys are so young and all give like a sassy fuckboy energy. I was just like, Veronica, why? And I like Jamal, but sometimes he just acts too cool for school, and I don't know if it's a defense mechanism, but and like Jamal, his friends are very direct and they flat out to Veronica, honestly, this is a red flag about you. And Veronica, she's like, I understand. It is weird. Like it is a weird circumstance, but it's not romantic. It's not like, it's not inappropriate. It's just that is her co-parent. And they've shared like a decade of their life together. And she tells him like he is a staple in my life. Like he is a deal breaker. And so I don't want to have to choose between them. I want them to get along. And so Jamal, of course, is egging this on, and he's like, yeah, I can't wait for you guys to meet him so that you guys can see that I'm not bugging. Like, I'm not saying that Tim is an angel. Like, I'm sure that Tim has made Jamal feel very uncomfortable, and that's not cool. But going into this with backup, it's gonna heighten things, and we'll see that. I felt so bad for Veronica because whenever you meet your significant other's friends, you obviously want them to like you. You want to be the cool girlfriend. You want to just have a good time. And for them in the first meeting to call you a red flag, and she was doing her best to hold it together, but my heart was breaking for her. I'm sure she felt so judged. And the thing about it is that her situation with Tim is an exception. It's not the standard. But for exceptions, people need extra convincing. It just sucks. It's time for the meetup. When Tim arrives, he's super friendly. He's talking to everybody and he's asking his friends what they think about Charlotte so far. And Jamal is acting real icy about it. He's just being too cool for school. And my thing is, if you give that energy, people are going to feed off of it. And Tim is the type of person that he's going to give it right back to you. So, like, you're already coming into the space with so much animosity. Jamal basically is like, yeah, Charlotte was really not for me. If I moved here, I would have to start over. Tim then asks Jamal's friends for their feedback on what Jamal said. But I will say, before I get to that, Jamal was talking, Veronica had her eyes glued on Tim. She wasn't like looking, when someone's talking next to you, you're like, nodding. No, she was literally like this, glued to Tim. I don't know what it was about. I don't know if she was trying to send signs. Let me know if you guys noticed that. But anyway, Tim had asked the friends what they thought about what Jamal said, and they were just, again, direct. Yeah, we don't see our boy living here, but also as his friends, we're concerned about what we've heard about you being heavily in the picture. And I could not believe that they were so bold, especially in a first meeting. But then again, there's strength in numbers, and they're as a collective feeding off of each other. And Jamal is like straight up like, yeah, I mean, let's just get into it. You just don't like me. Tim thinks that this is an excuse. Like, it doesn't matter if he likes him or not. And part of me agrees, right? Like, if you want to live there, you're going to live there regardless of whether Tim agrees or not. Like, Tim is not going to get in your way. He's not a roadblock. The way Veronica sees it is, you're not getting along, and so this is making it uncomfortable. And I totally get Veronica telling that to Tim on one-on-one. But now she's ganging up on Tim with the collective of the sassy boys. By the way, the word sassy is gender neutral in this channel. And so Veronica calls Tim out in this moment, being like, you started shit with Jamal day one. So, like, you set the tone. Again, Veronica, call your bestie out, but not in the same space as everyone else. You can't expect them to get along and then be trifling on both sides. Because Jamal spilled that Veronica shares with him every time Tim says something about their relationship. That's not helpful to your big picture, girly. Tim is telling you those things in the safe space of your friendship. You can't say that you want your boyfriend to get along with your bestie if you're gonna go ahead and tell them all the things that they're saying. Like, it's so messy. And the thing is, like, Jamal is rightfully upset. I would be upset if I'm constantly hearing that someone's talking shit about me. But that's something that Veronica should have nipped in the bud with Tim. But to, again, relay it back and forth, it's like, you really don't want peace. So again, Jamal is rightfully pissed, but Tim is being blindsided and ganged up on because Veronica completely just exposed him. Things that he told her in confidence. And still, he's being really calm, but she's fully taking her boyfriend's side, of course, and ganging up on Tim. And you guys, I really like Veronica, but I was really upset watching this because I'm just like, girlie, you bulldozed yourself into this relationship with this young man, but just because that was easy for you doesn't mean that everyone else is gonna get on board so easy. I'm sorry, it's just not realistic. And Tim tells her it just doesn't matter if I like him or not. It takes time to build trust. Veronica's asking for a timeline. She's like, how long is it gonna take for you to trust him? And that's just not a fair question. Do you guys agree with my take, or are you guys interpreting this differently? Please let me know, because it feels just so wrong. Y'all, of course, this convo takes a turn. Tim is still being really peaceful, and he's saying again and again that, like, time will tell. That his actions will tell me what I have to know. If you're happy and Chloe's happy. And Veronica's like, but he has, and you know that, he has. And then Jamal, under his breath, is like, well, it's not like Tim is dad of the year. And Tim is like, excuse me? Like, I've raised that girl for like 12 years. Like, what do you mean? And that's when it pushed the button for Tim, because it's like, you can talk about all the things that you don't like about Tim, but not his role in Chloe's life and the role that he's played as Veronica's co-parent. And Jamal's fully crossing this line and is like, we're not going to pretend like you're father of the year. And he insinuates that Veronica has told him things about Tim. And I'm just like, Veronica, you don't want peace. You are talking shit about everybody. How in the world do you expect them to get along? You're the messy bitch in this relationship. In both of them. With your boyfriend and with your bestie. Like, it's not okay. I'm just like, Veronica, I didn't expect you to be this messy. You just don't talk about people's kids. It was disrespectful. And then Jamal calls Tim a bitch. And when Tim defends himself, Jamal gets up. And so, of course, Tim gets up. And now it's a pissing contest. Y'all. And then, of course, it's just chaos. And Veronica's in the middle like, stop, stop. And I'm just like, you caused this. But can we all agree, yes, it's Veronica's fault. But in this situation between Jamal and Tim, Jamal was in the wrong. Anything that happened before did not matter. Because in this moment, he came in hot. He was there to disrespect. He had his minions as backup, so he knew that he could say anything and he would be protected. Veronica girl, you ambushed your best friend and co-parent. And I hope that when you watch this episode of The Single Life, you learn some lessons, because I'm sure the conversations afterwards are awkward as heck, because Tim is going to be like, damn, like, nothing I tell you is sacred. But also, what are you saying about me in Pillow Talk with Jamal? Like, the levels of disrespect, there's blame to share. Anyway, on to the next. Let's go to Chantel in Greece. Chantel and the crew have reached the end of their 4-hour road trip. They reached Greek Hunk's hometown. Chantel looks much better than what she looked like in the car, so they were able to get it together. And I guess they arrived to the port where she's going to meet up with the guy. And she hugs her friends goodbye. And you guys, they were on the road for 4 hours. I'm like, are you guys going straight to the hotel? Like, sure, you don't want to crash her date. I'd be pissed if I'd have to go straight to the hotel. Like, get me some food, get me some water, but she hugs them goodbye. She sachets to her Greek Spartan. And so Chantel's like, I want to see if there's a connection like we had in the club or it was just a moment. And I'm like, Chantel, there is no way that with that basic conversation, you guys had a real connection. I so desperately just want her to have a good time, and she's out here trying to find her next husband. Like, girl, you didn't have to travel 4 hours to get that answer. I could have told you. But she arrives, and as you guys know, Chantel is very beautiful, but our girl has no game. And I'm gonna give her some grace because she was in a relationship with someone for like a decade. But they get to the cute little bar, and there's just awkward silence. They're just making eye contact, and finally the guy breaks the ice and he asks her what her favorite sport is. They start having a conversation. It's pretty surface level. At one point Chantel's like, oh, the Greek language is really hard, and he was like, you have a teacher here. And she's like, and then somehow, some way, she ends up asking about the Spartans because Chantel's obsessed with Spartans. I don't understand. But he matches her enthusiasm with it, and she is so giddy. Happens to be that this guy has a Spartan shield tattooed on him, and she's losing it. She's just like, oh my god, like, what are the chances? This must be a sign. And honestly, I miss dating and being delusional. There's something so fun about it. Except, I don't dream of marriage with every date. And I feel like Chantel is so far from home, and she's like, yes, I'm gonna find my husband that's gonna move to Atlanta with me here. But honestly, this Greek salad of hers must be drinking the same Kool-Aid as her because he's, on a high as well. He's like, yeah, it's going really well. I want to show her around and really have her fall in love with this place and maybe with me. And I'm like, okay. Give her a tour of the island, and they were holding hands, and really, it was really cute. I feel like there's this underlying pressure that she's putting on of like wanting it to be the next big thing, which makes the situation more awkward. Like, just let it flow. And she says that she's trying really hard not to get caught up in it. And she again doesn't want it to be a hookup. So when he gets her to her hotel, she's like, yeah, I'm not gonna invite him up because I want this to be more. But maybe he'll kiss me goodnight. And I'm like, okay. This girl is firmly grounded in Delululand. At this point, we're just going for the ride in Greece. I guess in the next episode, we'll see if she stuck to that kiss rule or if she invited him up. I think she probably invited him up because she hasn't gotten laid in over a year. What do you guys think? That's my hunch. Anyway, on to Miss Debbie, the last one. So you guys remember when we last saw Debbie, she went on the date with Russ, and it was going well, like he forgave the fact that she lied about her age. But then Miss Debbie overshared a bit about her ex Osama. And so apparently after the date, Russ called Debbie and he was just like kind of shaming her for the fact that she was in a relationship with a 24-year-old. And Debbie was very just confused by his reaction. And I'm like, Debbie, that was a bit extreme. Like, you have to expect that reaction. And you knew deep down because that's why you felt like you had to share it in the first place. So that was over, of course. And Debbie is not one to cry over spilled milk because she's already dating someone else. She's been FaceTiming with this new guy named Ruben for weeks. Ruben lives in Miami. Apparently, he has the same kind of young spirit. He's a bit of an adventurer. He's traveled a lot. And we see them on FaceTime, and they are flirting up a storm. And Ruben is like, we've been talking for a few weeks. I like you more and more. I really think it's time that we meet in person. You should come to Miami to visit me. And Miss Debbie is hesitant because she's like, traveling to meet men has just gone so amazing for me. Even the way she turns him down was very like coqueta, like She wanted him to like beg her to come. And she ultimately decides that she's going. She's getting her a new man. And so we see her at a store getting the essentials, and she's about to give her son Julian another heart attack at this point. She's picking out lubricant, she's picking out condoms, and Julian's like, wait, what is this for? I don't want to go condom shopping with my mom. He's not happy when Debbie tells him that she's going to meet another man from the internet that she doesn't know. Debbie's like, you need to chill. And again, it's that whole thing where she thinks she's a teenager and he's the parent. And she's like, you're not my dad. And he's like, well, I feel like I have to be on edge because you're moving like you have no sense. He goes, I can't chill because you lack all the chill. So he decides that he's going to go to Miami with his mom. And Debbie at first is like, no way. Like, you're going to be, cramping my style. But he's like, I'm going to go. I'll give you some space, but I'm going to go because you're meeting a complete stranger. Like, you're so gullible. And Debbie, after a while, stops fighting him on it because she's like, I did this to myself with the whole Osama thing. So I get why he's so protective. And y'all, I just know. And y'all, Julian is a cop. I just know that he's going to cock block his mother so hard in Miami. And I can't wait to see it. Yeah, you guys, that was the episode of The Single Life. Next week looks even crazier with Natalie and Tyree back in the picture. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, make sure to like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next one.